Section 25 of Pamela or Virtue Rewarded. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Pamela or Virtue Rewarded by Samuel Richardson. Section 25. Thursday, near 3 o'clock. I thought I should have found no time nor heart to write again this day. But here are 3 gentlemen come, unexpectedly, to dine with my master, and so I shall not appear. He has done all he could, civilly, to send them away, but they will stay, though I believe he had rather they would not. And so I have nothing to do but to write till I go to dinner myself with Mrs. Jewkes, for my master was not prepared for this company, and it will be a little latish today. So I will begin with my happy story where I left off. When I came down to breakfast, Mr. Peters and Mr. Williams were both there, and as soon as my master heard me coming down, he met me at the door, and led me in with great tenderness. He had kindly spoken to them, as he told me afterwards, to mention no more of the matter to me than needs must. I paid my respects to them, I believe a little awkwardly, and was almost out of breath, but said I had come down a little too fast. When Abraham came in to wait, my master said, that the servants should not mistrust. "'Tis well, gentlemen, you came as you did, for my good girl and I were going to take an airing till dinner-time. I hope you'll stay and dine with me." "Sir," said Mr. Peters, "we won't hinder your airing. I only came, having a little time upon my hands, to see your chapel, but must be at home at dinner, and Mr. Williams will dine with me." "Well then," said my master, "we will pursue our intention, and ride out for an hour or 2, as soon as I have shown Mr. Peters my little chapel. Will you, Pamela, after breakfast walk with us to it?" If, said I, and had like to have stammered, foolish that I was. "If you please, sir." I could look none of them in the face. Abraham looking at me, "Why, child," said my master, "you have hardly recovered your fright yet. How came your foot to slip?" "'Tis well you did not hurt yourself," said Mr. Peters, improving the hint. "You hain't sprained your ankle, madam, I hope." "No, sir," said I believe not, but 'tis a little painful to me. And so it was, for I meant my foolishness. "Abraham," said my master, "bid Robin put the horses to the coach, instead of the chariot, and if these gentlemen will go, we can set them down." "No matter, sir," said Mr. Peters, "I had as lieve walk, if Mr. Williams chooses it." "Well then," said my master, "let it be the chariot, as I told him." I could eat nothing, though I attempted it, and my hand shook so, I spilled some of my chocolate, and so put it down again, and they were all very good, and looked another way. My master said, when Abraham was out, "I have a quite plain ring here, Mr. Peters, and I hope the ceremony will dignify the ring, and that I shall give my girl reason to think it, for that cause, the most valuable one that can be presented her." Mr. Peters said, he was sure I should value it more than the richest diamond in the world. I had bid Mrs. Jewkes not to dress herself, lest she should give cause of mistrust, and she took my advice. When breakfast was over, my master said, before Abraham, "Well, gentlemen, we will step into the chapel, and you must give me your advice as to the alterations I design. I am in the more haste, because the survey you are going to take of it, for the alterations will take up a little time, and we shall have but a small space between that and dinner, for the little tour I design to make. Pamela, you'll give us your opinion, won't you?" "Yes, sir," said I, "I'll come after you." So they went out, and I sat down in the chair again, and fanned myself. "I am sick at heart," said I think, Mrs. Jewkes. Said she, "Shall I fetch you a little cordial?" "No," said I am a sad fool. I want spirits, that's all." She took her smelling bottle, and would have given it me, but I said, "Keep it in your hand. Maybe I shall want it, but I hope not." She gave me very good words, and begged me to go. And I got up, but my knees beat so against one another, I was forced to sit down again. But, at last, I held by her arm, and passing by Abraham, I said, "This ugly slip, coming downstairs, has made me limp, though. So I must hold by you, Mrs. Jewkes. Do you know what alterations there are to be in the chapel, that we must all give our opinions of them?" Nan, she told me, was let into the secret, and she had ordered her to stay at the chapel door, to see that nobody came in. My dear master came to me, at entering the chapel, and took my hand, and led me up to the altar. "Remember, my dear girl," whispered he, "and be cheerful." I will, sir," said I. But I hardly knew what I said. And so you may believe, when I said to Mrs. Jewkes, "Don't leave me, pray, Mrs. Jewkes, don't leave me," as if I had all confidence in her, and none where it was most due. So she kept close to me. God forgive me, but I never was so absent in my life, as at first, even till Mr. Williams had gone on in the service, so far as to the awful words about requiring us, as we should answer at the dreadful day of judgment, and then the solemn words, and my master's whispering, "Mind this, my dear," made me start. Said he, still whispering, "Know you any impediment?" I blushed, and said softly, "None, sir, but my great unworthiness." Then followed the sweet words, "Wilt thou have this woman to thy wedded wife?" etc. And I began to take heart a little, when my dearest master answered audibly to this question, "I will." But I could only make a curtsy, when they asked me, though I am sure my heart was readier than my speech, and answered to every article of obey, serve, love, and honour. Mr. Peters gave me away, and I said, after Mr. Williams, as well as I could, as my dear master did with a much better grace, the words of betrothment, and the ceremony of the ring passing next. I received the dear favour at his worthy hands with a most grateful heart, and he was pleased to say afterwards in the chariot, that when he had done saying, "With this ring I thee wed," etc., I made a curtsy, and said, "Thank you, sir." Maybe I did, for I am sure it was a most grateful part of the service, and my heart was overwhelmed with his goodness, and the tender grace wherewith he performed it. I was very glad that the next part was the prayer and kneeling, for I trembled so, I could hardly stand, betwixt fear and joy. The joining of our hands afterwards, the declaration of our being married to the few witnesses present, for, reckoning Nan, whose curiosity would not let her stay at the door, there were but Mr. Peters, Mrs. Jewkes, and she. The blessing, the psalm, and the subsequent prayers, and the concluding exhortation, were so many beautiful, welcome, and lovely parts of this divine office, that my heart began to be delighted with them, and my spirits to be a little freer. And thus, my dearest dear parents, is your happy, thrice happy Pamela, at last married, and to whom? Why, to her beloved, gracious master, the lord of her wishes. And thus the dear, once naughty assailer of her innocence, by a blessed turn of Providence, is become the kind, the generous protector, and rewarder of it. God be evermore blessed and praised, and make me not wholly unworthy of such a transcendent honour. And bless and reward the dear, dear, good gentleman, who has thus exalted his unworthy servant, and given her a place, which the greatest ladies would think themselves happy in. My master saluted me most ardently, and said, God give you, my dear love, as much joy on this occasion as I have. And he presented me to Mr. Peters, who saluted me, and said, You may excuse me, dear madam, for I gave you away, and you are my daughter. And Mr. Williams modestly withdrawing a little way, Mr. Williams said my master, Pray accept my thanks, and wish your sister joy. So he saluted me too, and said, most heartily, Madam, I do. And I will say, that to see so much innocence and virtue so eminently rewarded is one of the greatest pleasures I have ever known. This my master took very kindly. Mrs. Jewkes would have kissed my hand at the chapel door, but I put my arms about her neck, for I had got a new recruit of spirits just then, and kissed her, and said, Thank you, Mrs. Jewkes, for accompanying me. I have behaved sadly. No, madam, said she, pretty well, pretty well. Mr. Peters walked out with me, and Mr. Williams and my master came out after us, talking together. Mr. Peters, when we came into the parlour, said, I once more, madam, must wish you joy on this happy occasion. I wish every day may add to your comforts, and may you very long rejoice in one another, for you are the loveliest couple I ever saw joined. I told him I was highly obliged to his kind opinion and good wishes, and hoped my future conduct would not make me unworthy of them. My good benefactor came in with Mr. Williams. So, my dear life, said he, how do you do? A little more composed, I hope. Well, you see this is not so dreadful an affair as you apprehended. Sir, said Mr. Peters, very kindly, it is a very solemn circumstance, and I love to see it so reverently and awfully entered upon. It is a most excellent sign, for the most thoughtful beginnings make the most prudent proceedings. Mrs. Jewkes, of her own accord, came in with a large silver tumbler, filled with sack, and a toast, and nutmeg and sugar, and my master said, That's well thought of, Mrs. Jewkes, for we have made but sorry breakfasting. And he would make me take some of the toast, as they all did, and drank pretty heartily, and I drank a little, and it cheered my heart, I thought, for an hour after. My master took a fine diamond ring from his finger, and presented it to Mr. Peters, who received it very kindly. And to Mr. Williams he said, My old acquaintance, I have reserved for you, against a variety of solicitations, the living I always designed for you, and I beg you'll prepare to take possession of it, and as the doing it may be attended with some expense, pray accept of this towards it. And so he gave him, as he told me afterwards it was, a banknote of 50 pounds. So did this generous good gentleman bless us all, and me in particular, for whose sake he was as bounteous as if he had married one of the noblest fortunes. So he took his leave of the gentleman, recommending secrecy again, for a few days, and they left him, and none of the servants suspected anything, as Mrs. Jewkes believes. And then I threw myself at his feet, blessed God, and blessed him for his goodness, and he overwhelmed me with kindness, calling me his sweet bride, and 20 lovely epithets, that swell my grateful heart beyond the power of utterance. He afterwards led me to the chariot, and we took a delightful tour round the neighbouring villages, and he did all he could to dissipate those still perverse anxieties that dwell upon my mind, and, do what I could, spread too thoughtful an air, as he tells me, over my countenance. We came home again by half an hour after 1, and he was pleasing himself with thinking, not to be an hour out of my company this blessed day, that, as he was so good as to say, he might inspire me with a familiarity that should improve my confidence in him, when he was told, that a footman of Sir Charles Hargrave had been here, to let him know, that his master and 2 other gentlemen were on the road to take a dinner with him, in their way to Nottingham. He was heartily vexed at this, and said to me, he should have been glad of their companies at any other time, but that it was a barbarous intrusion now, and he wished they had been told he would not be at home at dinner. And besides, said he, they are horrid drinkers, and I shan't be able to get them away to-night, perhaps, for they have nothing to do, but to travel round the country, and beat up their friends' quarters all the way, and it is all one to them, whether they stay a night or a month at a place. But, added he, I'll find some way, if I can, to turn them off, after dinner. Confound them, said he, in a violent pet, that they should come this day, of all the days in the year. We had hardly alighted and got in before they came. 3 mad rakes they seemed to be, as I looked through the window, setting up a hunting note as soon as they came to the gate, that made the courtyard echo again, and smacking their whips in concert. So I went up to my chamber, and saw, what made my heart throb, Mrs. Jewkes's officious pains to put the room in order for a guest, that, however welcome, as now my duty teaches me to say, is yet dreadful to me to think of. So I took refuge in my closet, and had recourse to pen and ink, for my amusement, and to divert my anxiety of mind. If one's heart is so sad, and one's apprehension so great, where one so extremely loves, and is so extremely obliged, what must be the case of those poor maidens who are forced, for sordid views, by their tyrannical parents or guardians, to marry the man they almost hate, and perhaps to the loss of the man they most love? Oh, that is a sad thing, indeed! And what have not such cruel parents to answer for? And what do not such poor innocent victims suffer? But blessed be God, this lot is far from being mine. My good master, for I cannot yet have the presumption to call him by a more tender name, came up to me, and said, Well, I just come to ask my dear bride, oh, the charming, charming word, how she does. I see you are writing, my dear, said he. These confounded rakes are half mad, I think, and will make me so. However, said he, I have ordered my chariot to be got ready, as if I was under an engagement 5 miles off, and will set them out of the house, if possible, and then ride round and come back as soon as I can get rid of them. I find, said he, Lady Davers is full of our affairs. She has taken great freedoms with me before Sir Charles, and they have all been at me, without mercy, and I was forced to be very serious with them, or else they would have come up to have seen you, since I would not call you down. He kissed me, and said, I shall quarrel with them, if I can't get them away, for I have lost 2 or 3 precious hours with my soul's delight. And so he went down. Mrs. Jewkes asked me to walk down to dinner in the little parlour. I went down, and she was so complaisant as to offer to wait upon me at table, and would not be persuaded without difficulty to sit down with me. But I insisted she should, for, said I, it would be very extraordinary, if one should so soon go into such distance, Mrs. Jewkes. Whatever my new station may require of me, added I hope I shall always conduct myself in such a manner, that pride and insolence shall bear no part in my character. You are very good, madam, said she, but I will always know my duty to my master's lady. Why then, replied I, if I must take state upon me so early, Mrs. Jewkes, let me exact from you what you call your duty, and sit down with me when I desire you. This prevailed upon her, and I made shift to get down a bit of apple pie and a little custard, but that was all. My good master came in again, and said, Well, thank my stars, these rakes are going now, but I must set out with them, and I choose my chariot, for if I took horse, I should have difficulty to part with them, for they are like a snowball, and intend to gather company as they go, to make a merry tour of it for some days together. We both got up when he came in. Fie, Pamela, said he, why this ceremony now? Sit still, Mrs. Jewkes. Nay, sir, said she, I was loath to sit down, but my lady would have me. She is very right, Mrs. Jewkes, said my master, and tapped me on the cheek, for we are but yet half married, and so she is not above half your lady yet. Don't look so down. Don't be so silent, my dearest, said he. Why, you hardly spoke 20 words to me all the time we were out together. Something I will allow for your bashful sweetness, but not too much. Mrs. Jewkes, have you no pleasant tales to tell my Pamela, to make her smile till I return? Yes, sir, said she. I could tell 20 pleasant stories, but my lady is too nice to hear them. and yet I hope I should not be shocking neither. Ah, poor woman, thought I, thy chastest stories will make a modest person blush, if I know thee, and I desire to hear none of them. My master said, Tell her one of the shortest you have, in my hearing. Why, sir, said she, I knew a bashful young lady, as madam may be, married to— Dear Mrs. Jewkes, interrupted I, no more of your story, I beseech you. I don't like the beginning of it. Go on, Mrs. Jewkes, said my master. No, pray, sir, don't require it, said I. Pray don't. Well, said he, then we'll have it another time, Mrs. Jewkes. Abraham coming in to tell him the gentlemen were going, and that his chariot was ready. I am glad of that, said he, and went to them, and set out with them. I took a turn in the garden with Mrs. Jewkes, after they were gone, and having walked a while, I said, I should be glad of her company down the elm walk, to meet the chariot, for, oh, I know not how to look up at him, when he is with me, nor how to bear his absence, when I have reason to expect him. What a strange contradiction there is in this unaccountable passion! What a different aspect everything in and about this house bears now, to my thinking, to what it once had, the garden, the pond, the alcove, the elm walk. But, oh, my prison is become my palace, and no wonder everything wears another face. We sat down upon the broad stile, leading towards the road, and Mrs. Jewkes was quite another person to me, to what she was the last time I sat there. At last my best beloved returned, and alighted there. What, my Pamela? And Mrs. Jewkes then left me. What, said he, and kissed me, brings you this way? I hope to meet me. Yes, sir, said I. That's kind, indeed, said he. But why that averted eye, that downcast countenance, as if you was afraid of me? You must not think so, sir, said I. Revive my heart then, said he, with a more cheerful aspect, and let that over-anxious solicitude, which appears in the most charming face in the world, be chased from it. Have you, my dear girl, any fears that I can dissipate? Any doubts that I can obviate? Any hopes that I can encourage? Any request that I can gratify? Speak, my dear Pamela, and if I have power but speak, and to purchase one smile, it shall be done. I cannot, sir, said I, have any fears, any doubts, but that I shall never be able to deserve all your goodness. I have no hopes, but that my future conduct may be agreeable to you, and my determined duty well accepted. Nor have I any request to make, but that you will forgive all my imperfections, and, among the rest, this foolish weakness, that makes me seem to you, after all the generous things that have passed, to want this further condescension and these kind assurances. But indeed, sir, I am oppressed by your bounty. My spirits sink under the weight of it, and the oppression is still the greater, as I see not how, possibly, in my whole future life, by all I can do, to merit the least of your favours. I know your grateful heart, said he, but remember, my dear, what the lawyers tell us, that marriage is the highest consideration which the law knows. And this, my sweet bride, has made you mine, and me yours, and you have the best claim in the world to share my fortune with me. But, set that consideration aside, what is the obligation you have to me? Your mind is pure as that of an angel, and as much transcends mine. Your wit and your judgment, to make you no compliment, are more than equal to mine. You have all the graces that education can give a woman, improved by a genius which makes those graces natural to you. You have a sweetness of temper, and a noble sincerity, beyond all comparison, and in the beauty of your person you excel all the ladies I ever saw. Where then, my dearest, is the obligation, if not on my side to you? But to avoid these comparisons, let us talk of nothing henceforth but equality, although if the riches of your mind, and your unblemished virtue, be set against my fortune, which is but an accidental good, as I may call it, and all I have to boast of. The condescension will be yours, and I shall not think I can possibly deserve you, till after your sweet example my future life shall become nearly as blameless as yours. O sir, said I, what comfort do you give me, that, instead of my being in danger of being ensnared by the high condition to which your goodness has exalted me, you make me hope that I shall be confirmed and approved by you, and that we may have a prospect of perpetuating each other's happiness, till time shall be no more. But, sir, I will not, as you once cautioned me, be too serious. I will resolve with these sweet encouragements to be in everything what you would have me be, and I hope I shall, more and more, show you that I have no will but yours. He kissed me very tenderly, and thanked me for this kind assurance, as he called it, and so we entered the house together. 8 o'clock at night. Now these sweet assurances, my dear father and mother, you will say, must be very consolatory to me, and being voluntary on his side, were all that could be wished for on mine, and I was resolved, if possible, to subdue my idle fears and apprehensions. 10 o'clock at night. As we sat at supper, he was generously kind to me, as well in his actions as expressions. He took notice, in the most delicate manner, of my endeavour to conquer my foibles, and said, I see with pleasure my dear girl strives to comport herself in a manner suitable to my wishes. I see, even through the sweet tender struggles of your over-nice modesty, how much I owe to your intentions of obliging me. As I have once told you, that I am the conquest more of your virtue than your beauty, so not one alarming word or look shall my beloved Pamela hear or see, to give her reason to suspect the truth of what I aver. You may the rather believe me, continued he, as you may see the pain I have to behold anything that concerns you, even though your concern be causeless. And yet I will indulge my dear girl's bashful weakness so far, as to own, that so pure a mind may suffer from apprehension on so important a change as this, and I can therefore be only displeased with such part of your conduct as may make your sufferings greater than my own, when I am resolved, through every stage of my future life, in all events, to study to make them less. After supper, of which with all his sweet persuasions I could hardly taste, he made me drink 2 glasses of champagne, and afterwards a glass of sack, which he kindly forced upon me, by naming your healths. And as the time of retiring drew on, he took notice, but in a very delicate manner, how my colour went and came, and how foolishly I trembled. Nobody, surely, in such delightful circumstances, ever behaved so silly. And he said, My dearest girl, I fear you have had too much of my company for so many hours together, and would better recollect yourself, if you retired for half an hour to your closet. I wished for this, but durst not say so much, lest he should be angry. For as the hours grew on, I found my apprehensions increase, and my silly heart was the unquieter, every time I could lift up my eyes to his dear face, so sweetly terrible did he appear to my apprehensions. I said, You are all goodness, dear sir, and I boldly kissed his dear hand, and pressed it to my lips with both mine, and saluting me very fervently, he gave me his hand, seeing me hardly able to stand, and led me to my chamber door, and then most generously withdrew. I went to my closet, and the first thing I did, on my knees, again thanked God for the blessing of the day, and besought his divine goodness to conduct my future life in such a manner as should make me a happy instrument of his glory. After this, being now left to my own recollection, I grew a little more assured and lightsome, and the pen and paper being before me, I amused myself with writing thus far. 11 o'clock Thursday night. Mrs. Jewkes, being come up with a message, desiring to know, whether her master may attend upon me in my closet, and hinting to me, that, however she believed he did not expect to find me there, I have sent word, that I beg he would indulge me 1/4 of an hour. So committing myself to the mercies of the Almighty, who has led me through so many strange scenes of terror and affrightment, to this happy yet awful moment, I will wish you, my dear parents, a good night, and though you will not see this in time, yet I know I have your hourly prayers, and therefore cannot fail of them now. So good night. Good night. God bless you, and God bless me. Amen. Amen, if it be his blessed will. Subscribes your ever dutiful daughter. Friday evening. Oh, how this dear excellent man indulges me in everything! Every hour he makes me happier, by his sweet condescension, than the former. He pities my weakness of mind, allows for all my little foibles, endeavours to dissipate my fears. His words are so pure, his ideas so chaste, and his whole behaviour so sweetly decent, that never surely was so happy a creature as your Pamela. I never could have hoped such a husband could have fallen to my lot, and much less that a gentleman who had allowed himself in attempts that now I will endeavour to forget for ever, should have behaved with so very delicate and unexceptionable a demeanour. No light frothy jest dropped from his lips, no alarming railleries, no offensive expressions, nor insulting airs, reproach or wound the ears of your happy, thrice happy daughter. In short, he says everything that may embolden me to look up with pleasure upon the generous author of my happiness. At breakfast, when I knew not how to see him, he emboldened me by talking of you, my dear parents, a subject he generously knew I could talk of, and gave me assurances that he would make you both happy. He said, he would have me send you a letter to acquaint you with my nuptials, and, as he could make business that way, Thomas should carry it purposely as tomorrow. Nor will I, said he, my dear Pamela, desire to see your writings, because I told you I would not. For now I will, in everything, religiously keep my word with my dear spouse. Oh, the dear delightful word! And you may send all your papers to them, from those they have, down to this happy moment. Only let me beg they will preserve them, and let me have them when they have read them, as also those I have not seen, which, however, I desire not to see till then, but then shall take it for a favour, if you will grant it. It will be my pleasure, as well as my duty, sir, said I, to obey you in everything, and I will write up to the conclusion of this day, that they may see how happy you have made me. I know you will both join with me to bless God for his wonderful mercies and goodness to you, as well as to me, for he was pleased to ask me particularly after your circumstances, and said, he had taken notice, that I had hinted in some of my first letters, that you owed money in the world, and he gave me 50 guineas, and bid me send them to you in my packet, to pay your debts, as far as they would go, and that you would quit your present business, and put yourself and my dear mother into a credible appearance, and he would find a better place of abode for you than that you had, when he returned to Bedfordshire. Oh, how shall I bear all these exceeding great and generous favours! I send them wrapped up, 5 guineas in a parcel, in double papers. To me he gave no less than 100 guineas more, and said, I would have you, my dear, give Mrs. Jewkes, when you go away from hence, what you think fit out of these, as from yourself. Nay, good dear sir, said I, let that be what you please. Give her then, said he, 20 guineas, as a compliment on your nuptials. Give Colbrand 10 guineas. Give the 2 coachmen 5 guineas each. To the 2 maids at this house 5 guineas each. Give Abraham 5 guineas. Give Thomas 5 guineas, and give the gardeners, grooms, and helpers 20 guineas among them. And when, said he, I return with you to the other house, I will make you a suitable present, to buy such ornaments as are fit for my beloved wife to appear in. For now, my Pamela, continued he, you are not to mind, as you once proposed, what other ladies will say, but to appear as my wife ought to do. Else it would look as if what you thought of, as a means to avoid the envy of others of your sex, was a wilful slight in me, which, I hope, I never shall be guilty of. And I will show the world that I value you as I ought, and as if I had married the first fortune in the kingdom. And why should it not be so, when I know none of the first quality that matches you in excellence? He saw I was at a loss for words, and said, I see, my dearest bride, my spouse, my wife, my Pamela, your grateful confusion. And kissing me, as I was going to speak, I will stop your dear mouth, said he. You shall not so much as thank me, for when I have done 10 times more than this, I shall but poorly express my love for so much beauty of mind and loveliness of person. Which thus, said he, and clasped me to his generous bosom, I can proudly now call my own. Oh, how, my dear parents, can I think of anything but redoubled love, joy, and gratitude? And thus generously did he banish from my mind those painful reflections and bashful apprehensions that made me dread to see him for the first time this day, when I was called to attend him at breakfast, and made me all ease, composure, and tranquillity. He then, thinking I seemed somewhat thoughtful, proposed a little turn in the chariot till dinner time, and this was another sweet relief to me, and he diverted me with 20 agreeable relations of what observations he had made in his travels, and gave me the characters of the ladies and gentlemen in his other neighbourhood, telling me whose acquaintance he would have me most cultivate. And when I mentioned Lady Davers with apprehension, he said, To be sure I love my sister dearly, notwithstanding her violent spirit, and I know she loves me. And I can allow a little for her pride, because I know what my own so lately was, and because she knows not my Pamela, and her excellencies, as I do. But you must not, my dear, forget what belongs to your character, as my wife, nor meanly stoop to her, though I know you will choose, by softness, to try to move her to a proper behaviour. But it shall be my part to see, that you do not yield too much. However, continued he, as I would not publicly declare my marriage here, I hope she won't come near us till we are in Bedfordshire, and then, when she knows we are married, she will keep away, if she is not willing to be reconciled. For she dares not, surely, come to quarrel with me, when she knows it is done. For that would have a hateful and wicked appearance, as if she would try to make differences between man and wife. But we will have no more of this subject, nor talk of anything, added he, that shall give concern to my dearest. And so he changed the talk to a more pleasing subject, and said the kindest and most soothing things in the world. When we came home, which was about dinner time, he was the same obliging, kind gentleman, and, in short, is studious to show, on every occasion, his generous affection to me. And, after dinner, he told me he had already written to his draper in town, to provide him new liveries, and to his late mother's mercer to send him down patterns of the most fashionable silks, for my choice. I told him I was unable to express my gratitude for his favours and generosity, and as he knew best what befitted his own rank and condition, I would wholly remit myself to his good pleasure, but, by all his repeated bounties to me, of so extraordinary a nature, I could not but look forward with awe upon the condition to which he had exalted me, and now I feared I should hardly be able to act up to it in such a manner as should justify the choice he had condescended to make. but that, I hoped, I should have not only his generous allowance for my imperfections, which I could only assure him should not be wilful ones, but his kind instructions, and that as often as he observed any part of my conduct such as he could not entirely approve, he would let me know it. And I would think his reproofs of beginning faults the kindest and most affectionate things in the world, because they would keep me from committing greater, and be a means to continue to me the blessing of his good opinion. He answered me in the kindest manner, and assured me that nothing should ever lie upon his mind which he would not reveal, and give me an opportunity either of convincing him or being convinced myself. He then asked me when I should be willing to go to the Bedfordshire house. I said, whenever he pleased. We will come down hither again before the winter, said he, if you please, in order to cultivate the acquaintance you have begun with Lady Jones and Sir Simon's family. And, if it please God to spare us to one another, in the winter I will give you, as I promised, for 2 or 3 months, the diversions of London. And I think, added he, if my dear pleases, we will set out next week, about Tuesday, for t'other house. I can have no objection, sir, said I, to anything you propose. But how will you avoid Miss Darnford's solicitation for an evening to dance? Why, said he, we can make Monday evening do for that purpose, if they won't excuse us. But if you please, said he, I will invite Lady Jones, Mr. Peters and his family, and Sir Simon and his family, to my little chapel, on Sunday morning, and to stay dinner with me, and then I will declare my marriage to them, because my dear life shall not leave this country with the least reason for a possibility of anybody's doubting that it is so. Oh, how good was this! But indeed his conduct is all of a piece, noble, kind, and considerate. What a happy creature am I! And then, maybe, said he, they will excuse us till we return into this country again, as to the ball. Is there anything, added he, that my beloved Pamela has still to wish? If you have, freely speak. Hitherto, my dearest sir, replied I, you have not only prevented my wishes, but my hopes, and even my thoughts. And yet I must own, since your kind command of speaking my mind seems to show that you expect from me I should say something, that I have only 1 or 2 things to wish more, and then I shall be too happy. Say, said he, what they are. Sir, proceeded I am indeed ashamed to ask anything, lest it should not be agreeable to you, and lest it should look as if I was taking advantage of your kind condescensions to me, and knew not when to be satisfied. I will only tell you, Pamela, said he, that you are not to imagine that these things which I have done in hopes of obliging you are the sudden impulses of a new passion for you. But, if I can answer for my own mind, they proceed from a regular and uniform desire of obliging you, which, I hope, will last as long as your merit lasts, and that, I make no doubt, will be as long as I live. And I can the rather answer for this, because I really find so much delight in myself, in my present way of thinking and acting, as infinitely overpays me, and which, for that reason, I am likely to continue for both our sakes. My beloved wife, therefore, said he, for methinks I am grown fond of a name I once despised, may venture to speak her mind, and I will promise that, so far as it is agreeable to me, and I cheerfully can, I will comply, and you will not insist upon it, if that should not be the case. To be sure, sir, said I ought not, neither will I. And now you embolden me to become a humble petitioner, and that, as I ought, upon my knees, for the reinstating such of your servants, as I have been the unhappy occasion of their disobliging you. He raised me up, and said, My beloved Pamela has too often been in this suppliant posture to me, to permit it any more. Rise, my fairest, and let me know whom in particular you would reinstate. And he kindly held me in his arms, and pressed me to his beloved bosom. Mrs. Jervis, sir, said I. In the first place, for she is a good woman, and the misfortunes she has had in the world must make your displeasure most heavy to her. Well, said he, who next? Mr. Longman, sir, said I, and I am sure, kind as they have been to me, yet would I not ask it, if I could not vouch for their integrity, and if I did not think it was my dear master's interest to have such good servants. Have you anything further? Said he. Sir, said I, your good old butler, who has so long been in your family before the day of your happy birth, I would, if I might, become an advocate for. Well, said he, I have only to say, that had not Mr. Longman and Mrs. Jervis, and Jonathan too, joined in a body, in a bold appeal to Lady Davers, which has given her the insolent handle she has taken to intermeddle in my affairs, I could easily have forgiven all the rest of their conduct, though they have given their tongues no little license about me. But I could have forgiven them, because I desire everybody should admire you. And it is with pride that I observe not only their opinion and love, but that of everybody else that knows you, justify my own. But yet I will forgive even this, because my Pamela desires it, and I will send a letter myself to tell Longman what he owes to your interposition, if the estate he has made in my family does not set him above the acceptance of it. And, as to Mrs. Jervis, do you, my dear, write a letter to her, and give her your commands, instantly, on the receipt of it to go and take possession of her former charge. For now, my dearest girl, she will be more immediately your servant, and I know you love her so well, that you'll go thither with the more pleasure to find her there. But don't think, added he, that all this compliance is to be for nothing. Ah, sir, said I, tell me but what I can do, poor as I am in power, but rich in will, and I will not hesitate one moment. Why then, said he, of your own accord, reward me for my cheerful compliance with one sweet kiss. I instantly said, Thus then, dear sir, will I obey, and oh, you have the sweetest and most generous way in the world to make that a condition, which gives me double honour, and adds to my obligations. And so I clasped my arms about his neck, and was not ashamed to kiss him once, and twice, and 3 times, once for every forgiven person. Now, my dearest Pamela, said he, what other things have you to ask? Mr. Williams is already taken care of, and, I hope, will be happy. Have you nothing to say for John Arnold? Why, dear sir, said I, you have seen the poor fellow's penitence in my letters. Yes, my dear, so I have, but that is his penitence for his having served me against you, and, I think, when he would have betrayed me afterwards, he deserves nothing to be said or done for him by either. But, dear sir, said I, this is a day of jubilee, and the less he deserves, poor fellow, the more will be your goodness. And let me add one word, that as he was divided in his inclinations between his duty to you and good wishes to me, and knew not how to distinguish between the one and the other, when he finds us so happily united by your great goodness to me, he will have no more puzzles in his duty, for he has not failed in any other part of it, but, I hope, will serve you faithfully for the future. Well then, suppose I put Mrs. Jewkes in a good way of business, in some inn, and give her John for a husband, and then your gipsy story will be made out, that she will have a husband younger than herself. You are all goodness, sir, said I. I can freely forgive poor Mrs. Jewkes, and wish her happy. But permit me, sir, to ask, would not this look like a very heavy punishment to poor John? And as if you could not forgive him, when you are so generous to everybody else? He smiled and said, O my Pamela, this, for a forgiving spirit, is very severe upon poor Jewkes. But I shall never, by the grace of God, have any more such trying services to put him or the rest upon, and if you can forgive him, I think I may, and so John shall be at your disposal. And now let me know what my Pamela has further to wish. Oh, my dearest sir, said I, not a single wish more has your grateful Pamela. My heart is overwhelmed with your goodness. Forgive these tears of joy, added I. You have left me nothing to pray for, but that God will bless you with life, and health, and honour, and continue to me the blessing of your esteem, and I shall then be the happiest creature in the world. He clasped me in his arms, and said, You cannot, my dear life, be so happy in me, as I am in you. Oh, how heartily I despise all my former pursuits, and headstrong appetites! What joys, what true joys, flow from virtuous love! Joys which the narrow soul of the libertine cannot take in, nor his thoughts conceive, and which I myself, whilst a libertine, had not the least notion of. But, said he, I expected my dear spouse, my Pamela, had something to ask for herself, but since all her own good is absorbed in the delight her generous heart takes in promoting that of others, it shall be my study to prevent her wishes, and to make her care for herself unnecessary, by my anticipating kindness. In this manner, my dear parents, is your happy daughter blessed in a husband. Oh, how my exulting heart leaps at the dear, dear word! And I have nothing to do but to be humble, and to look up with gratitude to the all-gracious dispenser of these blessings. So with 1,000 thanks, I afterwards retired to my closet, to write you thus far. And having completed what I purpose for this packet, and put up the kind obliging present, I have nothing more to say, but that I hope soon to see you both, and receive your blessings on this happy, thrice happy occasion, and so hoping for your prayers, that I may preserve an humble and upright mind to my gracious God, a dutiful gratitude to my dear master and husband, that I may long rejoice in the continuance of these blessings and favours, and that I may preserve, at the same time, an obliging deportment to every one else, I conclude myself, your ever dutiful and most happy daughter, Pamela B. Oh, think it not my pride, my dear parents, that sets me on glorifying in my change of name. Yours will be always dear to me, and what I shall never be ashamed of, I'm sure. But yet, for such a husband, what shall I say, since words are too faint to express my gratitude and my joy? I have taken copies of my master's letter to Mr. Longman, and mine to Mrs. Jervis, which I will send with the further occurrences, when I go to the other dear house, or give you when I see you, as I now hope soon to do. End of Section 25.
Section 26 of Pamela, or Virtue Rewarded. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Pamela, or Virtue Rewarded, by Samuel Richardson. Section 26. Saturday morning, the 3rd of my happy nuptials. I must still write on till I come to be settled in the duty of the station to which I am so generously exalted, and to let you participate with me the transporting pleasures that rise from my new condition, and the favours that are hourly heaped upon me by the best of husbands. When I had got my packet for you finished, I then set about writing, as he had kindly directed me, to Mrs. Jervis, and had no difficulty till I came to sign my name, and so I brought it down with me when I was called to supper, unsigned. My good master, for I now delight, and always shall, to call him by that name, had been writing to Mr. Longman, and he said pleasantly, See here, my dearest, what I have written to your somebody. I read as follows. Mr. Longman, I have the pleasure to acquaint you that last Thursday I was married to my beloved Pamela. I have had reason to be disobliged with you and Mrs. Jervis and Jonathan, not for your kindness to and regard for my dear spouse that is now, but for the manner in which you appealed to my sister Davis, which has made a very wide breach between her and me. But as it was one of her first requests that I would overlook what had passed, and reinstate you in all your former charges, I think myself obliged, without the least hesitation, to comply with it. So, if you please, you may again enter upon an office which you have always executed with unquestionable integrity, and to the satisfaction of yours, etc. Friday afternoon. I shall set out next Tuesday or Wednesday for Bedfordshire, and desire to find Jonathan as well as you in your former offices, in which I dare say you'll have the more pleasure, as you have such an early instance of the sentiments of my dear wife, from whose goodness you may expect every agreeable thing. She writes herself to Mrs. Jervis. I thanked him most gratefully for his goodness, and afterward took the above copy of it, and showed him my letter to Mrs. Jervis, as follows. My dear Mrs. Jervis, I have joyful tidings to communicate to you, for yesterday I was happily married to the best of gentlemen, yours and my beloved master. I have only now to tell you that I am inexpressibly happy, that my generous benefactor denies me nothing, and even anticipates my wishes. You may be sure I could not forget my dear Mrs. Jervis, and I made it my request, and had it granted, as soon as asked, that you might return to the kind charge which you executed with so much advantage to our master's interest, and so much pleasure to all under your direction. All the power that is put into my hands by the most generous of men shall be exerted to make everything easy and agreeable to you. And as I shall soon have the honour of attending my beloved to Bedfordshire, it will be a very considerable addition to my delight, and to my unspeakable obligations to the best of men, to see my dear Mrs. Jervis, and to be received by her with that pleasure which I promised myself from her affection. For I am, my dear good friend, and always will be, yours very affectionately and gratefully, Pamela. He read this letter and said, "'Tis yours, my dear, and must be good. But don't you put your name to it?" "Sir," said I, "your goodness has given me a right to a very honourable one. But as this is the first occasion of the kind, except that to my dear father and mother, I think I ought to show it you unsigned, that I may not seem over forward to take advantage of the honour you have done me." However sweetly humble and requisite, said he, that this may appear to my dear Pamela's niceness, it befits me to tell you, that I am every moment more and more pleased with the right you have to my name. And, my dear life, added he, I have only to wish I may be half as worthy as you are of the happy knot so lately knit. He then took a pen himself, and wrote, after Pamela, his most worthy surname, and I underwrote thus: "O rejoice with me, my dear Mrs. Jervis, that I am enabled, by God's graciousness and my dear master's goodness, thus to write myself." These letters and the packet to you were sent away by Mr. Thomas early this morning. My dearest master is just gone to take a ride out, and intends to call upon Lady Jones, Mrs. Peters, and Sir Simon Darnford, to invite them to chapel and dinner to-morrow, and says, he chooses to do it himself, because the time is so short they will perhaps deny a servant. I forgot to mention that Mr. Williams was here yesterday, to ask leave to go to see his new living, and to provide for taking possession of it, and seemed so pleased with my master's kindness and fondness for me, as well as his generous deportment to himself, that he left us in such a disposition as showed he was quite happy. I am very glad of it, for it would rejoice me to be a humble means of making all mankind so. And oh, what returns ought I not to make to the divine goodness, and how ought I to strive to diffuse the blessings I experience to all in my knowledge? For else, what is it for such a worm as I to be exalted? What is my single happiness, if I suffer it, niggard-like, to extend no further to myself? But then indeed do God's almighty creatures act worthy of the blessings they receive, when they make, or endeavour to make, the whole creation, so far as in the circle of their power, happy. Great and good God, as thou hast enlarged my opportunities, enlarge also my will, and make me delight in dispensing to others a portion of that happiness which I myself so plentifully received at the hand of thy gracious providence. Then shall I not be useless in my generation. Then shall I not stand a single mark of thy goodness to a poor worthless creature, that in herself is of so small account in the scale of beings, a mere cipher on the wrong side of a figure, but shall be placed on the right side, and though nothing worthy in myself, shall give signification by my place, and multiply the blessings I owe to thy goodness, which has distinguished me by so fair a lot. This, as I conceive, is the indispensable duty of a high condition, and how great must be the condemnation of poor creatures at the great day of account, when they shall be asked, what uses have they made of the opportunities put into their hands, and are only able to say, we have lived but to ourselves. We have circumscribed all the power thou hast given us into one narrow, selfish compass. We have heaped up treasures for those who came after us, though we knew not whether they would not make a still worse use of them than we ourselves did. And how can such poor selfish pleaders expect any other sentence than the dreadful, Depart, ye cursed? But surely, my dear father and mother, such persons can have no notion of the exalted pleasures that flow from doing good, were there to be no after account at all. There is something so satisfactory and pleasing to reflect on the being able to administer comfort and relief to those in stand of need of it, as infinitely of itself rewards the beneficent mind. And how often have I experienced this in my good lady's time, though but the second-hand dispenser of her benefits to the poor and sickly, when she made me her almoner. How I have been affected with the blessings which the miserable have heaped upon her for her goodness, and upon me for being but the humble conveyor of her bounty to them. And how delighted have I been, when the moving report I have made of a particular distress has augmented my good lady's first intentions in relief of it. This I recall with pleasure, because it is now, by the divine goodness, become my part to do these good things she was wont to do. And oh, let me watch myself, that my prosperous state do not make me forget to look up, with due thankfulness, to the Providence which has entrusted me with the power, so that I may not incur a terrible woe by the abuse or neglect of it. Forgive me these reflections, my dear parents, and let me have your prayers, that I may not find my present happiness a snare to me, but that I may consider that more and more will be expected from me, in proportion to the power given me, and that I may not so unworthily act, as if I believed I ought to set up my rest in my mean self, and think nothing further to be done, with the opportunities put in my hand by the divine favour and the best of men. Saturday, 7 o'clock in the evening. My master returned home to dinner to compliment to me, though much pressed to dine with Lady Jones, as he was also by Sir Simon to dine with him. But Mr. Peters could not conveniently provide a preacher for his own church to-morrow morning, at so short a notice, Mr. Williams being gone, as I said, to his new living, but believed he could for the afternoon, and so he promised to give us his company to dinner, and to read afternoon service. And this made my master invite all the rest, as well as him, to dinner, and not to church, and he made them promise to come, and told Mr. Peters he would send his coach for him and his family. Miss Darnford told him pleasantly she would not come unless he would promise to let her be at his wedding, by which I find Mr. Peters has kept the secret, as my master desired. He was pleased to give me an airing after dinner in the chariot, and renewed his kind assurances to me, and if possible is kinder than ever. This is sweetly comfortable to me, because it shows me he does not repent of his condescensions to me, and it encourages me to look up to him with more satisfaction of mind, and less doubtfulness. I begged leave to send a guinea to a poor body in the town that I heard by Mrs. Jewkes lay very ill, and was very destitute. He said, "Send two, my dear, if you please." Said I, "Sir, I will never do anything of this kind without letting you know what I do." He most generously answered, "I shall then perhaps have you do less good than you would otherwise do from a doubt of me, though I hope your discretion, and mine own temper, which is not avaricious, will make such doubts causeless." "Now, my dear," continued he, "I'll tell you how we will order this point, to avoid even the shadow of uneasiness on one side, or doubt on the other. As to your father and mother, in the first place, they shall be quite out of the question, for I have already determined in my mind about them, and it is thus. They shall go down, if they and you think well of it, to my little Kentish estate, which I once mentioned to you in such a manner as made you reject it with a nobleness of mind that gave me pain then, but pleasure since. There is a pretty little farm and house untenanted upon that estate, and tolerably well stocked, and I will further stock it for them, for such industrious folks won't know how to live without some employment, and it shall be theirs for both their lives, without paying any rent, and I will allow them £50 per annum beside, that they may keep up the stock, and be kind to any others of their relations, without being beholden to you or me for such small matters, and for greater when needful, you shall always have it in your power to accommodate them, for I shall never question your prudence. And we will, so long as God spares our lives, go down once a year to see them, and they shall come up as often as they please. It cannot be too often to see us. For I mean not this, my dear, to send them from us. Before I proceed, does my Pamela like this? O, sir, said I, the English tongue affords not words, or at least I have them not, to express sufficiently my gratitude. Teach me, dear sir, continued I, and pressed his dear hand to my lips, teach me some other language, if there be any, that abounds with more grateful terms, that I may not be thus choked with meanings for which I can find no utterance. My charmer, said he, your language is all wonderful, as your sentiments, and you must abound what you seem most to want. All that I wish is to find my proposals agreeable to you, and if my first are not, my second shall be, if I can but know what you wish. Did I say too much, my dear parents, when I said he was, if possible, kinder and kinder? Oh, the blessed man! How my heart is overwhelmed with his goodness! Well, said he, my dearest, let me desire you to mention this to him, to see if they approve. But if it be your choice and theirs to have them nearer to you, or even under the same roof with you, I will freely consent to it. Oh, no, sir, said I, and I fear almost sinned in my grateful flight. I'm sure they would not choose that. They could not perhaps serve God so well if they were to live with you. For so constantly seeing the hand that blesses them, they would, it may be, as much as my care to avoid, be tempted to look no further in their gratitude than to the dear dispenser of such innumerable benefits. Excellent creature, said he, my beloved wants no language, nor sentiments neither, and her charming thoughts, so sweetly expressed, would grace any language. And this is a blessing almost peculiar to my fairest. Your so kind acceptance, my Pamela, added he, repays the benefit with interest, and leaves me under obligation to your goodness. But now, my dearest, I will tell you what we will do with regard to points of your own private charity, for far be it from me to put under that name the subject we have been mentioning, because that, and more than that, is duty to persons so worthy and so nearly related to my Pamela, and as such to myself. Oh, how the sweet man outdoes me in thoughts, words, power, and everything! And this, he said, lies in very small compass. For I will allow you 200 a year, which Longman shall constantly pay you, at 50 a quarter, for your own use, and of which I expect no account, to commence from the day you enter into my other house. I mean, said he, that the first £50 shall then be due, because you shall have something to begin with. And, added the dear generous man, if this be pleasing to you, let it, since you say you want words, be signified with such a sweet kiss as you gave me yesterday. I hesitated not a moment to comply with these obliging terms, and threw my arms around his dear neck, though in the chariot, and blessed his goodness to me. But indeed, sir, said I cannot bear this generous treatment. He was pleased to say, don't be uneasy, my dear, about these trifles. God has blessed me with a very good estate, and all of it in prosperous condition, and generally well tenanted. I lay up money every year, and besides have large sums in government and other securities. So you will find what I have hitherto promised is very short of that proportion of my substance which, as my dearest wife, you have a right to. In this sweet manner did we pass our time till evening, when the chariot brought us home, and then our supper succeeded in the same agreeable manner, and thus, in a rapturous circle, the time moves on, every hour bringing with it something more delightful than the past. Sure nobody was ever so blessed as I. Sunday, the 4th day of my happiness. Not going to chapel this morning, the reason of which I told you, I bestowed the time from the hour of my beloved's rising to breakfast, in prayer and thanksgiving in my closet, and now I begin to be quite easy, cheerful, and free in my spirits, and the rather as I find myself encouraged by the tranquillity and pleasing vivacity in the temper and behaviour of my husband, who thereby shows he does not repent of his goodness to me. I attended him to breakfast with great pleasure and freedom, and he seemed quite pleased with me, and said, Now, does my dearest begin to look upon me with an air of serenity and satisfaction? It shall always, added he, my delight to give you occasion for this sweet becoming aspect of confidence and pleasure in me. My heart, dear sir, said I, is quite easy, and has lost all its foolish tumults, which, combating with my gratitude, might give an unacceptable appearance to my behaviour. But now your goodness, sir, has enabled it to get the better of its uneasy apprehensions, and my heart is all of one piece, and devoted to you, and grateful tranquillity. And could I be so happy as to see you and my good Lady Davers reconciled, I shall have nothing in this world to wish for more, but the continuance of your favour. He said, I wish this reconciliation, my dearest, as well as you, and I do assure you, more for your sake than my own, and if she would behave tolerably, I should make the terms easier to her, for that's the reason. He said, I will lay down one rule for you, my Pamela, to observe in your dress, and I will tell you everything I like or dislike, as it occurs to me, and I would have you do the same on your part, that nothing may be upon either of our minds that may occasion the least reservedness. I have often observed in married folks, that in a little while the lady grows careless in her dress, which to me looks as if she would take no pains to secure the affection she has gained, and shows a slight to her husband that she had not to her lover. Now you must know this has always given me great offence, and I should not forgive it even in my Pamela, though she would have the excuse for herself, that thousands could not make, that she looks lovely in everything. So, my dear, I shall expect of you always to be dressed by dinner time, except something extraordinary happens, and this, whether you are to go abroad or stay at home. For this, my love, will continue to you that sweet ease in your dress and behaviour, which you are so happy a mistress of, and whomsoever I bring home with me to my table, you'll be in readiness to receive them, and will not want to make those foolish apologies to unexpected visitors, that carry with them a reflection on the conduct of those who make them, and besides will convince me that you think yourself obliged to appear as graceful to your husband as you would to persons less familiar with your sight. This, dear sir, said I, is a most obliging injunction, and I most heartily thank you for it, and will always take care to obey it. Why, my dear, said he, you may better do this than half your sex, because they too generally act in such a manner as if they seemed to think that the privilege of birth and fortune to turn day into night and night into day, and are seldom stirring till it is time to sit down to dinner, and so all the good old family rules are reversed. For they breakfast when they should dine, dine when they should sup, and sup when they should go to bed, and, by the help of dear Quadrille, sometimes go to bed when they ought to rise. In all things but these, my dear, continued he, I expect you to be a lady. And my good mother was one of this old-fashioned cut, and in all other respects as worthy a lady as any in the kingdom. And so you have not been used to the new way, and may easier practise the other. Dear sir, said I, pray give me more of your sweet injunctions. Why then, continued he, I shall, in the usual course, and generally, if not hindered by company, like to go to bed with my dearest by 11, and if I don't, shan't hinder you. I ordinarily now rise by 6 in summer. I will allow you to be half an hour after me or so. Then you'll have some little time you may call your own, till you give me your company to breakfast, which may always be so that we may have done at a little after 9. Then you will have several hours again at your disposal till 2 o'clock, when I shall like to sit down at table. You will then have several useful hours more to employ yourself as you best like, and I would generally go to supper by 8. And when we are resolved to stick to these old-fashioned rules as near as we can, we shall have our visitors conform to them too, and expect them from us, and suit themselves accordingly. For I have always observed that it is in every one's power to prescribe rules to himself. It is only standing a few ridiculous jests at first, and that too from such generally as are not the most worthy to be minded. And after a while they will say, it signifies nothing to ask him, he will have his own way. There was no putting him out of his bias. He is a regular piece of clockwork, will they joke, and all. And why, my dear, should we not be so? For man is as frail a piece of machinery as any clockwork whatever, and by irregularity is as subject to be disordered. Then, my dear, continued the charming man, when they see they are received at my own times, with open countenance and cheerful heart, when they see plenty and variety at my board, and meet a kind and hearty welcome from us both, they will not offer to break in upon my conditions, nor grudge me my regular hours. And as most of these people have nothing to do except to rise in the morning, they may as well come to breakfast with us at half an hour after 8 in summer, as at 10 or 11, to dinner at 2, as at 4, 5, or 6, and to supper at 8, as at 10 or 11. And then our servants too will know generally the times of their business, and the hours of their leisure or recess, and we as well as they shall reap the benefits of this regularity. And who knows, my dear, but we may revive the good old fashion in our neighbourhood by this means? At least it will be doing our parts towards it, and answering the good lesson I learnt at school, every one mend one. And the worst that will happen will be, that when some of my brother rakes, such as those who broke in upon us so unwelcomely last Thursday, are got out of the way, if that can ever be, and begin to consider who they shall go to dine with in their rambles, they will only say, we must not go to him, for his dinner time is over, and so they'll reserve me for another time, when they happen to suit it better, or perhaps they will take our supper in bed with me instead of it. Now, my dearest, continued the kind man, you see here are more of my injunctions, as you call them, and though I will not be so set as to quarrel if they are not always exactly complied with, yet, as I know you won't think them unreasonable, I shall be glad they may as often as they can, and you will give your orders accordingly to your Mrs. Jervis, who is a good woman, and will take pleasure in obeying you. O dearest, dear sir, said I, have you nothing more to honour me with? You oblige and improve me at the same time. What a happy lot is mine! Well, let me see, my dearest, said he, but I think of no more at present, for it would be needless to say how much I value you for your natural sweetness of temper, and that open cheerfulness of countenance which adorns you, when nothing has given my fairest apprehensions for her virtue. A sweetness and a cheerfulness that prepossesses in your favour at first sight the mind of every one that beholds you. I need not, I hope, say, I would have you diligently preserve this sweet appearance. Let no thwarting accident, no cross fortune, for we must not expect to be exempt from such happy as we are now in each other, deprive this sweet face of its principal grace. And when anything unpleasing happens, in quarter of an hour, at farthest, begin to mistrust yourself, and apply to your glass, and if you see a gloom arising or arisen, banish it instantly. Smooth your dear countenance, resume your former composure, and then, my dearest, whose heart must always be seen in her face, and cannot be a hypocrite, will find this a means to smooth her passions also. And if the occasion be too strong for so sudden a conquest, she will know how to do it more effectually by repairing to her closet, and begging that gracious assistance which has never yet failed her. And so shall I, my dear, who, as you once but too justly observed, have been too much indulged by my good mother, have an example from you, as well as a pleasure in you, which will never be palled. One thing, continued he, I have frequently observed at the house of many a gentleman, that when we have unexpectedly visited or broken in upon the family order laid down by the lady, and especially if any of us have laid under the suspicion of having occasionally seduced our married companion into bad hours, or given indifferent examples, the poor gentleman has been oddly affected at our coming, though the good breeding of the lady has made her just keep up appearances. He has looked so conscious, has been so afraid, as it were, to disoblige, has made so many excuses for some of us, before we have been accused, as have always shewn me how unwelcome we have been, and how much he is obliged to compound with his lady for a tolerable reception of us, and perhaps she too, in proportion to the honest man's concern to court her smiles, has been more reserved, stiff, and formal, and has behaved with an indifference and slight that has often made me wish myself out of her house, till too plainly I have seen it was not his. This, my dear, you will judge by my description, has afforded me subject for animadversion upon the married life. For a man may not, though in the main he is willing to flatter himself that he is master of the house, and will assert his prerogative upon great occasions when it is strongly invaded, be always willing to contend, and such women as those I have described are always ready to take the field, and are worse enemies than the old Parthians, who annoy most when they seem to retreat, and never fail to return to the charge again, and carry on the offensive war till they have tired out resistance, and made the husband willing, like a vanquished enemy, to compound for small matters in order to preserve something. At least the poor man does not care to let his friends see his case, and so will not provoke a fire to break out that he sees, and so do his friends too. The meek lady has much ado to smother, and which very possibly burns with a most comfortable ardour after we have gone. You smile, my Pamela, said he, at this whimsical picture, and I'm sure I shall never have reason to include you in these disagreeable outlines. But yet I will say, that I expect from you, whoever comes to my house, that you accustom yourself to one even uniform compliance, that no frown takes place on your brow, that however ill or well provided we may be for their reception, you show no flutter or discomposure, that whoever you may have in your company at the time, you signify not, by the least reserved look, that the stranger is come upon you unseasonably, or at a time you wished he had not, but be facetious, kind, obliging to all, and if to one more than any other, to such as have the least reason to expect it from you, or who are the most inferior at the table. For thus will you, my Pamela, cheer the doubting mind, quiet the uneasy heart, and diffuse ease, pleasure, and tranquillity around my board. And be sure, my dear, continued he, let no little accidents ruffle your temper. I shall never forget once I was at Lady Arthur's, and a footman happened to stumble and let fall a fine china dish, and broke it all to pieces. It was grievous to see the uneasiness it gave the poor lady, and she was so sincere in it that she suffered it to spread all over the company, and it was a pretty large one too, and not a person in it but turned either her consoler or fell into stories of the like misfortunes, and so we all became, for the rest of the evening, nothing but blundering footmen and careless servants, or were turned into broken jars, plates, glasses, teacups, and such brittle substances. And it affected me so much that when I came home I went to bed and dreamt that Robin, with the handle of his whip, broke the foreglass of my chariot, and I was so solicitous, methought, to keep the good lady in countenance for her anger, that I broke his head in revenge, and stabbed one of my coach horses. And all the comfort I had when it was done, methought, was, that I had not exposed myself before company, and there were no sufferers but guilty Robin and one innocent coach horse. I was exceedingly diverted with the facetious hints, and the pleasant manner in which he gave them, and I promised to improve by the excellent lessons contained in them. I then went up and dressed myself, as like a bride as I could, in my best clothes, and on inquiry, hearing my dearest master was gone to walk in the garden, I went to find him out. He was reading in the little alcove, and I said, Sir, am I licensed to intrude upon you? No, my dear, said he, because you cannot intrude. I am so wholly yours, that wherever I am, you have not only a right to join me, but you do me a very acceptable favour at the same time. I have, sir, said I, obeyed your first kind injunction as to dressing myself before dinner. But maybe you are busy, sir. He put up the papers he was reading, and said, I can have no business or pleasure of equal value to your company, my dear. What were you going to say? Only, sir, to know if you have any more kind injunctions to give me. I could hear you talk a whole day together. You are very obliging, Pamela, said he, but you are so perfectly what I wish, that I may have spared those I gave you. But I was willing you should have a taste of my freedom with you, to put you upon the like with me. For I am confident there can be no friendships lasting without freedom, and without communicating to one another even the little caprices, if my Pamela can have any such, which may occasion uneasiness to either. Now, my dear, said he, be so kind as to find some fault with me, and tell me what you would wish me to do, to appear more agreeable to you. Oh, sir, said I, and I could have kissed him but for shame. To be sure, I shall grow a sad fond hussy. I have not one single thing to wish for, no, not one. He saluted me very kindly, and said he should be sorry if I had, and forbore to speak of it. Do you think, dear sir, said I, that your Pamela has no conscience? Do you think, that because you so kindly oblige her, and delight in obliging her, that she must rack her invention for trials of your goodness, and knows not when she is happy? Oh, my dearest sir, added I, less than one half of the favours you have so generously conferred upon me was that have exceeded my uttermost wishes. My dear angel, said he, and kissed me again, I shall be troublesome to you with my kisses, if you continue thus sweetly obligingly in your actions and expressions. Oh, sir, said I have been thinking, as I was dressing myself, what excellent lessons you teach me. When you commanded me at your table to cheer the doubting mind, and comfort the uneasy heart, and to behave most kindly to those who have least reason to expect it, and are the most inferior, how sweetly in every instant that could possibly occur have you done this yourself by your poor unworthy Pamela, till you have diffused in your own dear words ease, pleasure, and tranquillity around my glad heart. Then, sir, when you bid me not be disturbed by little accidents, or by strangers coming in upon me unexpectedly, how noble an instance did you give me of this, when on our happy wedding day, the coming of Sir Charles Hargrave and the other two gentlemen, for which you were quite unprovided, and which hindered our happiness of dining together on that chosen day, did not so disturb you, but that you entertained the gentlemen pleasantly, and parted with them civilly and kindly. What charming instances are these, I have been recollecting with pleasure, of your pursuing the doctrine you deliver. My dear, said he, these observations are very kind in you, and much to my advantage. But if I do not always, for I fear these were too much accidents, so well pursue the doctrines I lay down, my Pamela must not expect that my imperfections will be a plea for her non-observance of my lessons, as you may call them. For I doubt I shall ever be half so perfect as you, and so I cannot permit you to recede in your goodness, though I may find myself unable to advance as I ought to in my duty. I hope, sir, said I, by God's grace, I never shall. I believe it, said he, but I only mention this, knowing my own defects, lest my future lessons should not be so well warranted by my practice as in the instances you have so kindly recollected. He was pleased to take notice of my dress, and spanning my waist with his hand, said, What a sweet shape is here! It would make one regret to lose it. And yet, my beloved Pamela, I shall think nothing but that loss wanting to complete my happiness. I put my bold hand before his mouth and said, Hush, hush! O fie, sir! The freest thing you have ever said since I have been yours. He kissed my hand and said, Such an innocent wish, my dearest, may be permitted, because it is the end of the institution. But say, would such a case be unwelcome to my Pamela? I would say, sir, said I, and hid my blushing face on his bosom, that your wishes in everything shall be mine. But pray, sir, say no more. He kindly saluted me and thanked me, and changed the subject. I was not too free, I hope. Thus we talked till we heard the coaches, and then he said, Stay here in the garden, my dear, and I'll bring the company to you. And when he was gone, I passed by the back door, kneeled down against it, and blessed God for not permitting my then so much desired escape. I went to the pond, and kneeled down on the mossy bank, and again blessed God there, for his mercy in my escape from myself, my then worst enemy, though I thought I had none but enemies, and no friend near me. And so I ought to do in almost every step of this garden, and every room in this house. And I was bending my steps to the dear little chapel to make my acknowledgment there, but saw the company coming towards me. Miss Darnford said, So, Miss Andrews, how do you do now? Oh, you look so easy, so sweetly, so pleased, that I know you'll let me dance at your wedding, for I shall long to be there. Lady Jones was pleased to say I looked like an angel, and Mrs. Peters said I improved upon them every time they saw me. Lady Darnford was also pleased to make me a fine compliment, and said I looked freer and easier every time she saw me. Dear heart, I wish, thought I, you would spare these compliments, for I shall have some joke, I doubt, passed on me by and by, that will make me suffer for all these fine things. Mr. Peters said, God bless you, dear daughter, but not so much as my wife knows it. Sir Simon came in last, and took me by the hand, and said, Mr. B., by your leave, and kissed my hand 5 or 6 times, as if he were mad, and held it with both his, and made a very free jest, by way of compliment in his way. Well, I think a young rake is hardly tolerable, but an old rake and an old beau are two very sad things. And all this before daughters, women grown. I whispered to my dearest a little after, and said, I fear I shall suffer much from Sir Simon's rude jokes by and by, when you reveal the matter. 'Tis his way, my dear, said he. You must now grow above these things. Miss Nanny Darnford said to me, with a sort of half-grave, ironical air, Well, Miss Andrews, if I may judge by your easy deportment now, to what it was when I saw you last, I hope you will let my sister, if you won't me, see the happy knot tied, for she is quite wild about it. I curtsied, and only said, You are all very good to me, ladies. Mrs. Peters' niece said, Well, Miss Andrews, I hope before we part we shall be told the happy day. My good master heard her, and said, you shall, madam. That's pure, said Miss Darnford. He took me aside, and said softly, Shall I lead them to the alcove, and tell them there, or stay till we go into dinner? Neither, sir, I think, said I. I fear I shan't stand it. Nay, said he, they must know it. I would not have invited them else. Why then, sir, said I, let it be alone till they are going away. Then, replied he, you must pull off your ring. No, no, sir, said I, that I must not. Well, said he, do you tell Miss Darnford of it yourself? Indeed, sir, answered I cannot. Mrs. Jewkes came officiously to ask my master just then if she should bring a glass of Rhenish and sugar before dinner for the gentlemen and ladies. And he said, "That's well thought of. Bring it, Mrs. Jewkes." And she came with Nan attending her, with 2 bottles and glasses and a salver, and must needs, making a low curtsy, offered first to me, saying, "Will your ladyship begin?" I coloured like scarlet, and said, "No, my master, to be sure." But they all took the hint, and Miss Darnford said, "I'll be hanged if they have not stolen a wedding," said Mrs. Peters. "It must certainly be so. Ah, Mr. Peters!" "I'll assure you," said he, "I have not married them." "Where were you," said she, "and Mr. Williams last Thursday morning?" said Sir Simon. "Let me alone, let me alone. If anything has been stolen, I'll find it out. I'm a justice of the peace, you know." And so he took me by the hand, and said, "Come, madam, answer me by the oath you have taken. Are you married or not?" My master smiled, to see me look so like a fool, and I said, "Pray, Sir Simon." "Ay, ay," said he, "I thought you did not look so smirking upon us for nothing." "Well then, Pamela," said my master, "since your blushes discover you, don't be ashamed, but confess the truth." "Now," said Miss Darnford, "I am quite angry." And said Lady Darnford, "I am quite pleased. Let me give you joy, dear madam, if it be so." And so they all said, and saluted me round. I was vexed it was before Mrs. Jewkes, for she shook her fat sides, and seemed highly pleased to be a means of discovering it. "Nobody," said my master, "wishes me joy." "No," said Lady Jones, very obligingly, "nobody need. For with such a peerless spouse you want no good wishes." And he saluted them, and when he came last to me, said before them, "Now, my sweet bride, my Pamela, let me conclude with you. For here I began to love, and here I desire to end loving, but not until my life ends." This was sweetly said, and taken great notice of, and it was doing credit to his own generous choice, and vastly more than I merited. But I was forced to stand many more jokes afterwards; for Sir Simon said several times, "Come, come, madam, now you are become one of us, I shall be a little less scrupulous than I have been, I assure you." When we came in to dinner, I made no difficulty of what all offered me, the upper end of the table, and performed the honours of it with pretty tolerable presence of mind, considering. And with much ado, my good benefactor promising to be down again before winter, we got off the ball, but appointed Tuesday evenings at Lady Darnford's to take leave of all this good company, who promised to be there, my master designing to set out on Wednesday morning for Bedfordshire. We had prayers in the little chapel in the afternoon, but they all wished for the good clerk again, with great encomiums upon you, my dear father. And the company stayed supper also, and departed exceedingly well satisfied, and with abundance of wishes for the continuance of our mutual happiness. And my master desired Mr. Peters to answer for him to the ringers of the town, if they should hear of it, till I return into this country, and then he would be bountiful to them, because he would not publicly declare it till he had first done so in Bedfordshire. Section 27.